We're at Biosphere 2 in High Desert, and then down here you see some, these are all conference centers, and we're in the High Desert, it seems, also. And there's some stuff over that way. It's actually very civilized. There's greenhouses, but over there you start to see the structure itself. Geodesic dome, looks like a geodesic trapezoid period. And we're going to kind of walk this way along the scenic as we go. And apparently there's automated speaker things to tell you something. I'm not sure it's the scenic route. It looks more like a service road, but you know, they're in the...
This is the back alley of Biosphere 2.
The mean back alley streets. Oh yeah, hi.
Hello.
There you go. My companion.
This companion.
So, quiet is an understatement. I thought our place was quiet.
Beautiful, and the weather is perfect for Arizona. Well, it's warm perfect.
Yeah, I imagine it gets hotter during the later season, but the wind and everything is just very nice. I'm really into these spatial structures using truss systems.
Mountain.
There's a tree or something over there.
And we will be finding a heater.
But there's some odd art, and the structure is actually smaller than I thought it would be. I wonder if this is a second version.
What is Biosphere 2?
Huh?
Biosphere 2.
I know, it's always been called Biosphere 2.
Isn't Biosphere 1?
I don't think so. I think they refer to Earth as Biosphere 1.
Oh, wow. Way to make me look stupid. You're right.
That's vegetation outside.
Trees.
Yeah, and we did see some recycle bins, which was down and then followed over.
Let's go.
Ability to do a bunch of other stuff. And that's all. They do things like this should be recorded. And
Beautiful.
there's a raven, maybe?
Crow. Crows get pretty big out here too.
That's a very small solar array. I would have expected larger for this facility.
Maybe you can work with them on that.
Yeah.
And then we can live out here on Biosphere 2 while you get their solar array going.
If I had any meaningful project on the horizon, I would do it. Interesting tower. Actually, living out here would be awesome.
Yes, I already went down. It's beautiful. The desert is gorgeous and it's an amazing facility.
Look at the trees.
Look at this. Ooh, some look like they ain't water.
You kidding? Look up. It's 30, 40, what is it, 20 feet high? I guess 20.
Are we going inside there?
Yeah. We're going to explore each habitat. We've come out to see a very interesting and not very common sort of greenhouse, kind of. But it has things that... It's supposed to have different habitats for everything. Actually, if we have time, I want to go down and look at these fields.
Yeah, me too. Look, you can see the moon.
Oh yeah. I don't know if anybody else can see it, but there's a moon up there. The usual cactus.
I'd love to. Look at the lizard.
Yeah, I see it.
Here, my tape.
I can try.
This is the Arizona lizard. He's in the shade now, so it might be hard to see him. He's just chucking along.
Yep. I don't know if I got him or not. Oh, they're watering the grass, so we're not going down there. There's people inside there.
Yeah,
Alright, we're going inside, so I'm going to stop the recording. inhabitants of the biosphere too.
To the new inhabitants. Once you get in, you're never getting out. Become a part of the experiment.
Apparently the Folgers can is part of the biosphere habitat. But the space structure, minimum material, maximum strength. I was inside a nuclear power plant once, and it was on set.
That's 3 of the original 8. This is one of their apartments where they did live. Each one of those had an apartment.
It had to be very cool.
A little suit at the... Are
Yeah.
you doing your video? Okay, good.
Yeah, well, that's going to be this project here, what they call the LEO, the Landscape Evolution Observatory. They're going to build 3 of these huge soils in landscape soils, kind of replicating the slopes on the mountain up there. So
Oh,
there'll be 3 of those.
that's the experiment.
Outside of the building. Yeah. Each one of those is going to weigh over 2 million pounds. And then for the next 10 years, they're going to do research. They're going to rain on the soil, see how it reacts under a bunch of different conditions, where the water goes, how it evaporates. So a huge, it's costing about $5 million to build the project out here. Yeah. So they're going to get hopefully 10 years of good research out of it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that will be what it looks like underneath the domes. Yeah, so they call it LEO for short. You'll be hearing hopefully a lot more about it in the next couple of weeks and months, probably. Yeah, LEO.
It's going to be a thing of a lifetime to get on a project like this.
10 years, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they'll actually be living here. But, you know,
Yeah, I imagine some of the scientists will be staff there.
a lot of grad students too, I imagine.
Going back from NAU or U of A. To here.
That's what they pulled out. Actually, that's kind of a good thing to zoom in on right there. Oh, the dome is a human habitat. I wonder if we can get to that.
All right, so we do start here in the tropical orchard, or tropical rainforest. Rainforest was planted in the highest part of the building here. So 91 feet is as high as it can go. That's the canopy of this rainforest is 91 feet. Does get about 60 inches of rain per year from the biosphere too. We have a complete rain system up above. We'll look at that a little bit better down in the desert. Originally they did plant 300 species of plants in here. They actually expected about half of those not to survive. We have a scientist working in here. He's a botanist. He did a survey of the plants in here not too long ago, found 100 of the remaining species still living in the rainforest. They're pretty happy with the diversity of plants that have survived for the 20 years in here. If you notice these big bamboo trees here, the big green stalks, at one time there was a solid wall of these across the rainforest here, dividing the rainforest from the ocean area behind us. This big plastic wall was not here. When Columbia came, they did do a number of different changes to the building. One of those was to divide the building into 3 different sections. So they partitioned off the rainforest at this end, at the other end of the building, the desert from the ocean area in between. So originally the building was one all open space, did not have these dividers. A few other plants, if you notice out, looking out front of the rail there, we're kind of on a little balcony up above the rainforest here. Make sure you notice the waterfall coming off the mountain there. So you may need to move in a little bit to see the water. You haven't got a chance to see see that. That big tree just to the left of the meadow tower there, that's a queen sugar palm, one of the larger trees, palm trees in here. They did plant 71 trees in here, 24 species of trees. You kind of notice the two to the right of that, and then kind of out in that big open space, the big tall tree with the straight trunk that goes all the way up to the top of the canopy, doesn't branch until it gets to the very top, is a kapok tree. Actually, when it branches, it produces a seed pod that was that had a very good fiber in it that was used for making life preservers, particularly back in World War II when our troops were fighting across the pond in the ocean. They used those natural fibers to make life preservers for our soldiers. So no doubt that tree helped save a lot of lives back when the man-made materials were really hard to come by. So it has had a very useful purpose. If you notice to the right then, all the way out to the outside of the glass, you see the large leaf tree. Those are seed banana trees. There are quite a few of those. They did produce a lot of bananas when the Biosphereans were living in the building. In fact, it was probably one of their favorite foods. So much they liked it so much is the fact they were sweet that they had to keep them locked up in a closet so they wouldn't sneak down and eat them all the time. So had to protect the bananas. Also had to compete with some critters that they brought in with them. They brought in 4 bush baby small monkeys. They're actually primates. They're not in the monkey family, but they did have those 4 bush babies living in the rainforest while they were here. They also brought in a complete complement from insects to birds. They had reptiles, amphibians, birds living in the building as well. You won't see any of those animals anymore in the building. Again, when Columbia came in 1996, there was a big problem with ants. The ants had kind of overtaken the building. So the first thing Columbia wanted to do was get rid of the ants, but they didn't stop there. Any bug or critter that was inside the building, they physically captured and took them out of the building. They just did not want to deal with any of the animals in the building while they had the towers going. That's why you won't see, with the exception, if you come in into the rainforest here and after dark, they tell us never to get too close to the rails here. The people are the ones down below because they're always covered with cockroaches. You know, we have a very good population of cockroaches. I guess Columbia could get them. They're pretty tough bugs. If you kind of notice down below, too, on the floor of the rainforest, you notice some orange tubing actually on the floor, and it goes out of the rainforest. Those are some vacuum tubes that actually go to a laboratory and habitat area behind us. Another scientist named Colby is doing a research on what's called VOCs, volatile organic compounds. They're very small gases that are emitted from the leaves of the rainforest plant. Even though they're very, very small, they're very, very important to the life and the health of the rainforest. So he actually can measure those much more efficiently in this controlled environment than he can. He actually worked last summer in a Brazilian rainforest, so he can compare the two. So he's pretty much at the leading edge of rainforest research. As you may know, about a quarter of all our rainforests have been destroyed on our planet, on Biosphere 1. So hopefully by having a good healthy one here in Biosphere 2, studying it, researching it, learning a lot more about it, we will be able to keep those alive out on our planet, as they are very important to what's going to happen with our climate and our climate changes.
I didn't see any papayas or mangoes there.
Why are there mangoes?
Yeah.
That's why you won't see, with the exception, if you come in into the rainforest Babylonian temples when they developed the building. The main architect was named Phil Hawes. He had some extra help from a couple well-known architects. One was I.M. Pei, who's an internationally known architect. Also, Buckminster Fuller, of course, was the one that designed the geometric or geodesic framework that holds the whole building together. It does contain 7 million cubic feet of space. The film actually says 7 million square foot. That'd be an awful big building. So we do count the airspace in that 7 million cubic feet of space. The glass in the building, there's over 6,500 panes of glass. They are double pane glass. In the middle of those two panes of glass is a very thin filter that filters out half of the sunlight. So only half of the sunshine comes into the building. Also filters out 100% of the UV rays from the sun. No UV rays come into the building. They did that primarily to keep the building cooler under the hot Arizona sun. Of course, it meant the Biosphereans didn't have to worry about sunburns or skin cancers in the building here, but it did have some adverse effects on some of the biological communities and some of the insects trying to survive in here as well. One of those is the ocean. Let's talk a little bit about the ocean down below there. That is a bona fide ocean. The original 100,000 gallons came from the Pacific Ocean near San Diego. They actually trucked it over here using 23 large semi-trucks. They used sterilized milk containers to bring that seawater here, put it in the million-gallon tank down below, added another 900,000 gallons of well water from the site, added what they called an instant ocean kit to adjust the salt and the pH levels in the water. So since then, we have had a living ocean in the building. You notice on the right-hand side of the ocean, that large rock wall is a wave machine. In order to keep the ocean alive and healthy, we do have to constantly generate a wave through the water. It's kind of hard to see it on the surface. If you look down to the other end, look down to the beach end of the ocean, that is a genuine Caribbean beach. They did pattern the ocean after a Caribbean shoreline. You can see a little bit of that wave action going on the shore. One time that beach didn't have all the nice white coral sand that a Caribbean beach would have, but even that little bit of wave action has eroded that back into the water. That big shallow portion of the water of the ocean, you see in the center there with all the algae on it, that was originally a coral reef. They brought the coral plants from down near the Yucatan. When the Biosphereans were in here, they did have a living coral reef. You notice the algae has taken over that reef. That is a result of no UV rays. Normally the UV rays would control that algae growth, particularly out in Biosphere 1 in our oceans. Without that, of course, the algae has taken over the coral, destroyed the coral. Actually, when the Biosphereans were in the building, they put on scuba gear, went under the water, and kept those coral plants alive. But since nobody does that today, obviously the algae has won out. The big spotlights you see shining in the water down there are UV lights. They are still trying to control some of the algae growth with those artificial lights. Originally had about 40 species of tropical fish. There's just a few of those species left. We actually end our tour just outside the glass there, or you will end the tour outside the glass. At an ocean viewing gallery where you go underground and actually look under the ocean and see a few of those fish that are still remaining. The Biosphereans didn't like swimming in the water down below. The temperatures normally 77 to 80 degrees, so pretty mild, the water. Also, I understand they like jumping off these cliffs up here down into the 25-foot deep water. That's the deepest part of the ocean, down below the cliffs. All right, let's look behind us here on the outside of the rail. This is a savanna area, or grassland area. Savannas actually cover about 25% of all the inhabited parts of the globe. This grass can grow as high as 6 or 8 feet during the summertime. Notice the cattails growing in. There is a freshwater stream that flows through the savanna here. It starts with that waterfall in the rainforest, and then after it goes through the savanna, it gets recycled back to there. Yes, question?
It says 25 feet deep.
Right.
Marks on there, they're not how deep it is.
No, they're not. That's just part of a grid system, actually, identifying the ocean bottom, the floor of the ocean. Some university classes study that ocean floor. Right. Yeah.
The temperature is very cool here.
So the area we're in talk about first is actually down below the rail. If you kind of look down below, I know all of you can't just do it before we leave here. That is a saltwater marsh. It actually is the only biome that came from the United States, came from Florida, southwest tip of Florida. And if you spend any time in Florida, you know the fact that we're about the mangrove trees that are the trees growing ahead of us there outside the rail and in that saltwater marsh. One time the red mangrove trees were very common along the coastline of Florida. When they were developing the state, they actually cut them down and cleared them off the coast by the thousands. Now, however, we know these trees are very important to the health and ecology of the ocean. They're actually called the kidneys of the ocean. They're filters. They filter toxic chemicals and pollutants that come off of the land into the marsh before they get to the ocean. These trees absorb those pollutants and toxic chemicals up in their plant systems, and through their plant processes purify those chemicals and pollutants, put them back out in the atmosphere as clean, pure H2O. So now if you even think about cutting down a mangrove tree in Florida, pretty much around the world, they will put you in jail or give you a very high fine. They are trying to reestablish, regrow these, particularly on the Florida coast, for the health of the ocean. We actually get about 50% of our oxygen from the ocean, so very important, of course, to keep our ocean as unpolluted as possible. Also down below in their root system, we call that area the nurseries of the ocean. Very important reproductive area for fish, crustaceans, and bird life as well. This area behind us, below us here, is originally called the lower Savannah area. They haven't had grass there for a long time. This they use as a revolving research project. These screen boxes you see here are actually covering some pools of water. These pools are to simulate the canyon pools of the mountains behind us, on the Catalina Mountains. Scientists this summer is doing a research project on aquatic insects. He's introduced two bugs into these pools. One is a water slider, the other is a back swimmer. If you've been around the creek or lakes, you no doubt know these bugs. So he's going to see what happens as these pools dry up during the summertime, which they do on the mountain. And then when the monsoons come, they fill up with rain again. So he's going to see what those bugs do as these pools dry out and fill up. Of course, he can't do this out on the mountain because he couldn't keep track of his bugs. But in here with his screen and the houses here, he can find out which bugs. If you kind of notice on the side of the glass, that big building with the round windows, that's what we call our energy center building. It's a very crucial component to keeping the temperature controlled inside the building. We'll be talking a little bit more about that when we go down in the basement. The towers to the right, part of that same climate control system in the building. Around to the right, notice the big empty part of the building. That is the agricultural biome where the new LEO project is going. At the end of the glass there, that big white dome is our west lung. We'll actually be going in one just like that in the south lung at the end of the tour. So you'll be underneath one of those domes to get a chance to see what is underneath. All right, any questions?
Oh, that feels good.
Oh. That was really cool.
Get a little bit more air, I think, and then we'll be going that way.
Another one, yeah.
We can just hear.
So when they did develop the building, they did have to find a desert that would be compatible with the ocean and the rainforest, those high humidity level areas. The desert outside the glass, our Sonoran Desert in Arizona, of course, would not work because it's a very dry desert. So this desert is patterned after the Baja in Mexico along the Pacific Ocean, called a coastal fog desert. It gets very little bit of rain, gets most of its moisture from the fog that comes in off the Pacific Ocean in the wintertime. If you do look up above, you get a good view of our rain system. That's what it looks like throughout the building. So we can't make it rain as much or as little anywhere we want. We can't produce fog, so They do have to rain on this biome from time to time. You notice all the upper areas of the desert are nice and green. They have been getting rain for the last 3 or 4 months, as opposed to the plants right around us here that are still dormant pretty much from last summer. They haven't received any rain at all, so they're not dead, they're just dormant. This was due to a research project they had going on in the winter. They grew some Arizona grasses as a research project in here, and they didn't want to rain on those grasses, so they stopped the rain in this particular area. Actually, when the Biospheres were sealed in the building, this was an important biome for keeping their oxygen levels up to 19 or 20% to keep them breathing. In the wintertime, particularly when the rainforest and the Savannah areas slow down their oxygen production due to the shorter days, less sunshine, this was important to produce that extra oxygen to keep their oxygen levels at a breathing level within the sealed building. I don't know if you noticed the boojum tree when you came down the stairs there. You didn't see that? Look behind you. It's that green with the yellow stems on it. Actually, I was here on Friday and it was all green at that time. The leaves just, the branches just turned yellow over the weekend. Boojum tree, very unique plant to the Baja. Goes nowhere else in the world. So very unusual plant. Up in the corner there, that cactus that looks a little like an Arizona saguaro. It is not. It's called a cardone. Another unique cactus to the Baja. Grows actually in clumps, now larger than saguaros. They never put on any arms. They just grow tall. The cave structure you see there is part of our cooling system in the desert here, even on a relatively mild day, though it's going to get pretty warm outside. We do have to work pretty hard keeping the temperature below 100 degrees in here. Normally they keep it around 90 degrees with a humidity level of between 30 and 50%. Today it's right around a little over 40% humidity here, as opposed to the Sonoran Desert outside the glass, which on a typical day like today would have a humidity level of less than 10%. So obviously a saguaro cactus would not grow in here, as the cardone and the boojum tree would not grow out in the Sonoran Desert. Notice the rock around the cave, that is all man-made rock, are also boulders, big boulders, all man-made rock made from cement. If the rock's small enough that you can put it in a wheelbarrow, it might be a real rock, but otherwise all. All right, so we're going to head on down in the basement. We're going to get
Entering to the Undersea section where we can see the ocean. I think it is really cool and nice in here. Looks like a tunnel to some bunker. They're chillers. So these guys are. Oh, maybe not. They look like chillers. You can see her hair blow. It's cool. Behind you. This part's warm. This place is amazing. RO wilderness, RO water storage.
This area down below the building was originally called the Technosphere. We do call it the basement. That's what it is. The basement covers about 2 acres of ground. The building above us sits on 3.14 acres of ground. Notice the white tanks along the hallway there. That's what we call our clouds. That's where the rainwater comes from. And we need to make the rain up above. Notice the big stainless steel machines Fahrenheit. So then through the closed pipe system goes into the machine. Inside the machine are two large radiators.
How many feet deep you are. The water's on the other side of this. You know, Maricopa, I'm still looking as a viable possibility, just for illustration of proof of concept. We're building little mini versions out here, enough to power the system. Oh, the water. Okay. When a zombie apocalypse happens, I know where I'm going. Wow. Reminds me of Logan's Run. When they got into the Undersea of it. Oh, come over here. There's another one. And he's eating something. Okay, the fish are hams. They want camera time. So they scuba dive down here. Lucky group.
They got the best fish tank ever.
Are you guys kidding us?
Yeah, this picture got a good one too.
Wow. So he'd be the surviving species then. All by his lonesome.
Yeah.
Talk about a fish tank to play in.
Got him again. That's a
Oh,
yellow
there.
guy.
Yeah, two yellows.
There he is. Yeah, there he is. So,
Oh,
saw him going to that cave and then come out.
cute.
And there's the living coral.
Where?
Right there, it's flexing back and forth.
Where?
Right there, see?
Oh. That's a, are you sure? Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's actually a living reef. Uh-oh.
I think that's a sign that my cameras, or my whole phone is slowly.
Yeah, I shut off my Bluetooth and everything.
Maybe I didn't.
No, I mean, I didn't shut off my radio though. This is amazing. I haven't seen the ocean in so long. I mean, I haven't really been in the ocean in so long.
Can't tell if some things are like sea life or plants, you know. But what's that? I don't think that's a creature. I think that's a piece of
Hope
The great beauty and diversity of the reefs are a sight to behold. Coral reefs are
Never
home
seen a
to an
reef.
astonishing 25% of all marine species, colorful corals, fish, and invertebrates. Because of the large number of
One
species
reason I want to scuba
associated
dive
with
is I want
coral
one day
reefs,
to reef. There he is
they
again.
have been called the
He's such a
rainforests
camera hawk.
of the sea. However, coral reefs only cover
Oh, is it?
800,000
That's-
square miles.
Well, he's got to go over all that reef, so
Small
maybe not.
percentage of the entire ocean
They're
floor.
hams.
They occur around the world in shallow,
Right.
clear tropical waters less than 100 feet in depth. Coral
It's
reefs,
officially dying.
associated seagrass, and
That's it for me. It's everybody.
Oh, right there.
I put my phone away. John Adams, right?
John Adams. Oh, this is just a demo area.